Nice to have the chairs. Very compassionate this year. Everyone has a chair. I have two chairs. Oh. Yeah, meditation doesn't have to be painful. We don't have to torture ourselves. There's enough suffering in the world for that. Um, so my style I feel like I've come back to the Nira Nara family now. Many of us have done these retreats together, and it's a lovely feeling to be with you and you people too. So um, we have 9 days, so it's the longest retreat, and we've tried to design this retreat in a way where we have lots of silence. So we haven't doubled up the rooms. We could have, but we thought it's quite a rare opportunity to have silence and to be on your own. So in the Musava, that precept, um, observe, try to really be silent, just be with yourself. And if you have to talk, talk to a frog. You know, seriously. Because sometimes people have um, on a retreat, people who are naturally quiet have an advantage. People who are naturally talkative have a disadvantage. So the talkative people have to have more discipline. The quiet people just naturally sink into silence. So for the talkative people, I would say talk to the frog, definitely, right? Don't it's not like talking is bad, obviously, but if your attention is always out into the social environment and talking and relating, then the capacity to go inwards is lessened. And it's only when we go inwards can we understand deeply. So the noble silence is not an absolute silence, but it is an attempt to actually allow whatever is there to come up into the mind. Also the solitude, because when you're a social being, you have to be nice. You have to relate in a nice way. But sometimes you have maybe feelings of loneliness or feelings of grief or anger or resentment, things which are not socially kind of you can't speak them out, but they're very important actually. So on a retreat, if you would feel, say, um, some kind of loneliness, that would be a good thing to look at rather than just talking. Because loneliness is a natural phenomena, and any natural phenomena, if you cannot just be with it and allow it to rise and cease, you'll never find peace. You always have to be busy. So a retreat isn't just about pleasant experience. It's not about getting high meditative experiences. I think that's a myth. It just doesn't work that way. And all of us have been on enough retreats to know it's hard work sometimes. You're feeling like let you consider what we're doing now. You've come from busy lives and you've been doing lots of activities. So the momentum of your life has been outward. You've been fulfilling your responsibilities and you've been on the iPhone a lot or your Android, whatever device you use. And you've been on Facebook and WhatsApp and blah, blah, blah. So your attention has been out into various kinds of objects and activities. So when you come into the retreat, all of a sudden, bang, no talk, no Facebook, um, just you, you and your mind. So realize that would produce a kind of restlessness. It would only be natural because you don't have access. Now, if you allow that restlessness to be as it is and witness restlessness as it manifests in wanting to do something, and you just stay with the schedule. You wake up, do the morning meditation, have breakfast, we doing the Kiku, Kiku. We're doing that one. Okay. I think what do you call it? That's Tai Chi, isn't it? I just So you just follow the routine. When it's time to sit, you sit. And if you don't want to sit, you sit. If you want to sit, you sit. When it's time to walk, you walk. So you give up to the structure and the form. And by giving up to the structure and form, you can now watch your mind. You can witness what's going on. So if within the first days of the retreat, they're very hard, very difficult. A lot of people falling asleep, feeling restless, and so it's a tough number. But if you let's say if you take something like with restlessness and you just stay with the program, you watch the mind as it's in its restless kind of nature, then it will change. Anicca, it's natural to change. If you then feel the restlessness and do something like get on your iPhone, look at Facebook, or talk to people, you won't be allowing the restlessness to arise, stay for a while and cease, and you won't realize the peace of the mind. But being aware of restlessness is not easy. It takes a lot of kanti a lot of patience. The result is peace if you can stay with the program. If you don't stay with the program, then you just stay restless. So negative experience in a retreat is not a bad thing. Those difficulties, because what we're trying to do is we're trying to find a, a kind of there's a deep sense of silence and peace in consciousness, a deep sense of being which is available to us, but our minds are always distracted by things, by thoughts, by emotions, by externalities. And on a retreat now, we're trying not to pick up the world. The world will come in with its worries and its concerns and uh, its complaints and all of that. Now we're just trying to see, we're trying to be a witness, Uru. It's like a witness. So if you feel restless, Uru, restlessness feels this way. If you feel elated and you feel enlightened, fine. Enlightenment feels this way. It's the same thing. Don't get fooled by any of it. And then if you trust in that and you just allow whatever comes up into your mind to be the way it is, then the trusting mind will take you to the deep silence. The mind of habit won't take you to deep silence. The mind of habit will take you to habit. So we're now involved in the difficulty of challenging our habits and our comfort zone. Like comfort zone, that's a good idea, isn't it? Like, do you have that in Thai? Do you kindly say comfort zone or something? You have that kind of idea. So you get out of your Luang Cha very much recommended that you get out of your comfort zone, which means you don't have what you want. I mean, you have a beautiful place. We have a beautiful place, and I hope everyone online has a beautiful place. And the chairs are white. I thought, oh, white chairs, that's pretty good. And your food is fabulous, and the weather's great. So, and we're wonderful, but you'll still suffer because the human mind, when it doesn't get what it wants, it suffers. And now we're watching not being able to get what you want, not in a bad way that's harmful, but we're watching unfulfilled desire. And when you watch unfulfilled desire and you witness it, then you start to see the cessation of desire, which is nirodha, the ending of desire. And that's the idea of a retreat. Um, so those of you who are participating online, may I recommend that you develop a self-discipline during this time, whatever fits your lifestyle. I realize some of you have to go to work and so on, but the elements in the self-discipline, I would say, would be consistency and participation. If you can make all the sittings, great. If you can make some of the sittings, but try to do a lot of it, not just when you want to, like us here. And then um, I would say if you could have a discipline around the internet. Okay, so if you have work and you have to use your devices, can you do it just once a day and then put it down? Or can you fast on your devices for 12 hours a day or something like that? So your mind is not externalized all the time. But I realize it's a very personal thing. Um, So all of you have your own, like many of you have done the Mahasi, I think, tradition, and some of you have probably done Goenka retreats and things like that. So you all have your own experience and ways of practice. But one thing what you must realize that um, a retreat isn't here to satisfy your intellect. It's not about me telling you what the word dukkha really means, or what the word nirodha really means, or what the word samatha really means. It's not an intellectual exercise. So, as we say in the forest tradition, this is for reflection. And for reflection, it's just I am trying to offer you something that works for me. My language might be clumsy and it might not be exactly how you use a word, but it's not an argument about words. It's really what am I trying to point to? And you're trying to see what is he talking about? What is this fellow talking about? If you get caught up with words, I've seen that in with people, I'll use the word like Nirodha or something like that. And then they'll start thinking, Nirodha, does he mean that? Or does he mean this? Or does he mean that? Or does he mean that? And they're actually not listening anymore. They're just caught in their own intellect because they're limiting the practice to the intellect, and the intellect cannot be enlightened. The intellect is sankhara, it's compounded, it's constructed. So the liberation of the Buddha is not just an intellectual exercise. Intellect is good. It's not like a thought. It's actually the enlightened mind is from the silence of the heart. That's what it's about. So that's why I say this isn't about satisfying our intellect. If we wanted to do that, we'd have a scholar here and he could tell us about the roots of the Pali language. And that would be fun. I mean, that'd be interesting historically. Um, so I'm reading a book right now, and it's portraying some of the developments of Buddhism in Afghanistan and Gandhara and so on. And I could talk about that, but so what? You could look it up on Wikipedia. So realize that's not what we're doing here. We're not here to satisfy the intellect. Also, um, I don't know how your mind works. I'm I'm sorry. As much as I would love to see what's going on inside your brain, or would I? I'm not sure. I don't I don't know how to do that. So I'm not clairvoyant. I don't have any psychic powers. And I and the thing about teaching Dhamma, it's not the same as teaching carpentry. I was teaching a young monk a few months ago some basic woodworking skills, and I worked with him to make a table. And so I was describing how you get a rough piece of wood, which machinery you put it through to get it smooth, to get it square, how to measure, how to cut, how to use a chisel, how to use a drill press, how to use it, da 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 da. Now I could see what he was doing. I could see that he wasn't measuring accurately enough. I could see he wasn't making the wood square. It was a parallelogram. And I said, no, I could see when he was putting his hands too near the blade so I could see all that so I could give him proper feedback. So that kind of learning or teaching is easy because I know what I'm doing. He knows what I can teach him. Teaching Dhamma is much, much different because I cannot read your mind. And I don't know if you're hearing what I'm saying, right? Like I might say something to you and think I got it right. You might interpret it completely different from what I said. And I've had that when I've said something which I thought meant something, and then someone has interpreted it in a completely different way. And that's just the way of language. And I'm an English speaker. You're mostly Thai speakers. Oh, your English is good, perfect English, I'm sure. So there's just that. There's just that. So that's why we say this is for reflection, not to believe or not to disbelieve, but like, what am I trying to point to? And is it of value to you? You don't have to agree. You can say, well, good for you. But what am I kind of pointing to? It's not so much that it's right and wrong. And again, I don't know. That's why I always ask people, does that make sense? You get what I mean? Yeah, that kind of thing. So I'm not here to just tell you some kind of absolute truth. This Buddhism is this way, there's no other way. And I guess that's the Thai word pijarana. Is that the word? Or did I get the pronunciation right? Pijarana? I'm always afraid of Thai because of the tones. I just found out about Sue, and there's one way to pronounce that which is very naughty. So now I'm afraid of that word. Anyway, you know what I mean? There's language. Language is that way. So so Lopa Chai would say, listen with your heart. Like trying to receive what's being said, and in the Zen tradition, the you know s- the teacher's pointing to the moon, and the disciples looking at the finger. Oh, your finger, what's wrong with your finger? No, no, it's the moon, the moon. So it's that kind of idea. And if you have any and I use catchphrases, I use language which I have developed, which is particularly helpful to my own practice. So if I'm using some word again and again and again, and you understand the English, but you don't understand the context or what I'm trying to point to, just write me a note, and that helps me to explain. And I think I won't do questions from the floor. I'll get written questions. I think it's much, much better. That way we contain the noble silence. So there's that. And then whatever works for you, if you have experience in meditation, whatever works for you, stay with that. You don't have to change everything. And maybe I can add to it, just a little bit. So it's not just about what I say, it's about your body of experience, your own experimentation. If you're not sure about something, try it out. Give it a go. See what happens. We're going to um, we're going to alternate sitting, walking, standing, lying down. And in terms of sitting practice, if you can sit on the floor, fine. But if you can sit on a chair, fine. What you want to do is find a posture which is comfortable, not painful all the time. If you're sitting through a lot of pain, uh, go to a chair. Go to a chair. If you're sitting up through a lot of pain and the chair doesn't work, then then try the lying meditation, which I'll talk about in your own room. We can't do it here. It would be my sue. Was that right? I was quite afraid. Okay, so find a posture, something that you can work with, and then like with walking meditation, because the walking meditation won't be regulated by the clock. Do stick with it. Don't just leave when you feel bored because it's boring. Walking meditation, it's not exciting, but once you get into it, once you can just stay with it for 45 minutes, assuming the weather's okay and so on, and your body can do it, assuming that. Once you can get that pattern of sitting 45, walking 45, sitting 45, or an hour, whatever, but we usually do 45, it is very, very helpful because the difference between formal practice and mindfulness all the time is that in what we call formal meditation, we're setting a very strong adhitthana to be aware and awake, and we're not distracted. It's not the same as like, okay, I'm going to be aware of making a salad and cutting the salad. Yeah, that's true. I'm going to be aware, but it's different. Here, walking meditation, all you have is the path, and then you turn around, and then you turn around. So all the time, what you're doing is you're setting up the intention to awaken, 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 awaken. And if you do that for 2, 3 hours, that gives a powerful energy to sati, to the awake mind. And then that's where insight comes from the sustained ability to know and awaken to the way things are. You start to see. You start to see why you're suffering, where the attachment is. So that's the sort of methodology of a retreat. It's not made to be interesting. It's not made to be fun. That's not the point of it. It's made to try to help us awaken to the way things are, to develop a witnessing consciousness to the way things are, and understand where we get stuck, where we get attached, where suffering arises. And it's a good model. It's a good model. We just have to give up to it and see what happens. On this retreat, I thought in the handouts, you'll notice we printed out a copy of the Nibbana Sutta in English and in Pali. And I thought I would refer to that, maybe not so much tonight because it's you just got here, but um, I would like you to look at the Thai and look at the English, and um, and then we'll try to make sense of it because it's very, very difficult sutta. But my like Yom Vibun and I, we were talking in the car on the way to driving from Bangkok to Ratanawan about just the word Nibbana and how Vibun said, "Well, I don't want Nibbana. I just want to be a nicer guy. I just want to be a better person. Nibbana is too high. No, it's only for monks." But that's culture. That's what Thai culture has maybe conditioned Yom Nibun or Vibun. Is there such a thing as a Nibun? That's conditioned him to have a certain idea about Nibbana. So it's impossible. I don't have that conditioning. So I'm curious. Well, how did what is this thing? What is nirvana? How does it fit with my own spiritual practice? What is the language around it? So I'm interested. I'm interested in that. So I don't have all that kind of cultural baggage. So be careful of that, that your cultural interpretation of some of Buddhism is good, most of it's great, but some of it is conditioned in a way which might not be helpful. So there's a difference between your cultural interpretation of a word and actually how it might be used. Same for me. Same for me. So this sutta, Lompo Sumeru introduced me to there are four Nibbana suttas in the Udana, and this is the one that's most approachable, I think. And it seems very abstruse. It seems very, very esoteric, but once you start to unpack it, I think it's not that difficult? Maybe not. So I'd like to try to do that. But the logic of my own considerations on the Buddha's teaching came when I first met the texts in India when I was a layman in 1971 or two. I really worked hard to try to understand these concepts because there was anicca dukkha anatta, paticca samuppada, khandhas, ayatanas, bodhipakkhya dhammas, so much. I guess, what is? And what I was looking for was a way that I could have this whole teaching as one piece. Because if it was just like this piece and that piece and that piece, it didn't have an integrity. So it was just scattered. And so then what the Nibbana Sutta helps me with the law is this is a statement in a way the Buddha talks about his realization. This is his enlightenment. So all other teachings must come from that. Because if this is what he's realized, then all and his purpose, the Lord Buddha's purpose in teaching us is enlightenment and social harmony and social cohesion and social justice. Yeah, it's very, very good for that. But as meditators, the whole point of it, the teaching must refer to that. So you could think if the Lord Buddha gets enlightened, then he must try to figure out, okay, how am I going to explain this? What kind of teachings would direct people in this particular way? So that really helped me to to get the whole teaching as a piece. When I refer to that, then I understand why anicca dukkha anatta. Then I understand why paticca samuppada. Then I understand about Luang. It all makes sense to me because it's pointing to that. And that's what I'll try to maybe unpack and talk about in that way. So for me, when and Longpa Samedo has been my teacher all these good years, and I'm so grateful to him. He's always referred to that in some way or another. And in the Four Noble Truths, the, the point of the Four Noble Truths is to realize that. The point of the Anicca Dukkha is to realize that. Now the language is weird. It's very, very strange language. It's hard to get your head around, but don't give up. Don't be put off because it's difficult. I mean, take the difficult, right? Take the difficult, and so it's more like a puzzle or a quiz or a riddle, more like a riddle. What's a riddle in Thai? Do you have a word for riddle? Do you know what I mean? Anyway, I just want to see if you're understanding my English. It's like, what's he pointing to? What's he talking about? And that's a good thing. Like if you think you know Buddhism and you just do high school Buddhism, right? So you know how to write out dukkha, samudaya, nirodha, magga. You write it out and you get 95, you get 100% on your paper. You still suffer. That's just intellect, right? So that's just thinking you know. But when when life gets difficult, you still suffer. So you don't really know. You know, but you don't know. So that's the limit of intellect. So this isn't about figuring out intellectually. It's more like, what do I need to look at? What do I need to understand? What do I need to point to? And I'll talk about that. But I would be curious if the Thai practitioners would kind of look at that, and later on I'll get your feedback how the Thai translation relates to this translation is from Bhikkhu Thanissaro, the great American uh, scholar, monk, teacher. Okay, there's that. Um, what else? What else? What else? So in in establishing the retreat, what you're establishing is witnessing consciousness. And witnessing consciousness is simply knowing the way things are. So when the meditation ends, let's say you sat for 45 minutes and the meditation ends and you feel that you've had a bad meditation, then witnessing is bad meditation feels this way. That's right view. Wrong view would be bad meditation, I'm hopeless, I'm going home. Because that would be Sakaya Ditti, self view. We're trying to put self view aside, let it go. So bad meditation feels like this. And then I had a great meditation. Great meditation feels like this. If you have a great meditation, you think, well, finally, I'm almost there. Tomorrow, you're going to suffer a lot. I tell you, I know. So great meditation feels great. Bad meditation feels bad. But the witnessing or the awareness has no feeling. It is not, it knows. And that's what this is pointing to. It knows. So once you start to see that a feeling of a great meditation and a feeling of a terrible meditation have equal value, then you're puru, then you're witness, then the unconditioned, then the uncreated, that's what it's pointing to. Whereas if you think, I want the good one and I don't want the bad one, which is natural, and we all do that, and it's pretty hard not to do that, that's tanha. And tanha is always about the conditioned. So right from the get-go, you just begin to witness what you're feeling right now. If you're feeling inspired, great. If you're feeling this was a mistake, I have to go home, fine, don't go home. This is what it feels like. Just keep doing that. Keep doing that. You go to sleep, make an aditana to wake up in the morning and awaken to what is the mood of the mind. What is the first thing your mind is feeling and starting to think? What is the sense of self coming up when you wake up? And then say, oh, this is, it's coming from the dream state. It's coming from work last week, right? Okay, this is worry, or this is exhaustion or tiredness or whatever it is. Huh? And and then when you wake up, really do that. Really go to the mind, know the mood of the mind right away, because you can save yourself a lot of suffering. If you when you wake up and you go to the mood of the mind, if the mind is negative, you think, oh, I don't really want to meditate. It's too early. And you notice that, oh, this is a mood of negativity, and you don't add to it with thought. You save yourself a lot of karma, a lot of suffering. But if you wake up and you think, oh gosh, I really don't want to do this, and oh, I don't want, and you stay with that for 10 minutes, then you have probably an hour of that later. This is the way it works. This is how it works. So right from the get-go, right when you wake up, you don't have to feel any. I noticed in not this retreat, there's another retreat that I'll be doing in another country and close to here. And the schedule says awaken with a smile. Why? That's a pretty heavy demand. You must wake up with a smile. You are a Buddhist. But is life really work that way? You wake up with what you wake up. And I think you better wake up with Puru. Then you can put a smile on. But if you have to suppress, so it's not about being a nice Buddhist. Oh, I love, because sometimes you don't want to meditate and you don't want to be wherever you are. So you're just very honest about what you're feeling. So wake up with Puru, which can take anything. And the more you do that, the more you're inclining to that which is not conditioned. So the model I like to use is foreground and background. Foreground and background. Good meditation feels this way. Bad meditation feels this way. Background doesn't feel anything. That's where you find peace. That's what we're doing just by being aware of change.